So yeah, so we ended up at Royal Citadel. Quite a grim. When you arrive there at 8 o'clock in the evening and it's chucking down with rain in the winter, the Royal Citadel down in Plymouth is quite an intimidating because it's an old fort type thing.
Yeah.
Big doors. You knock on the door and hello. Gunner Hawks, I'm here to
Yeah,
do.
yeah, like you rang. Yeah.
But I absolutely loved it there, the commander course. Absolutely loved it. And as it happened, there was quite some really good lads that ended up passing and going through. But the whole of the course that we were on were all destined to go to 79 Battery, who were heading over to Belize at the time. They were short of people, so everybody that passed had to go to 79 Battery, which was not on my radar. I wanted to go to 7 Battery because they were up in Arbroath, Scotland. Bit of a black sheep organisation, but they were heading over to Northern Ireland. So
Right.
I feigned injury on my ankle. So we sort of passed the course. Once you pass the all arms course at the Royal Citadel, you then headed over to do the proper commando course. It's still the all arms course, but you did with the Royal Marines, and then you did that for 5 weeks or 7 weeks or whatever it
Was that
was.
was that Limston?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So when we finished the hardest bit, without a shadow of doubt, was the Royal Citadel, because lots of people volunteered to do it, and they whittled you right down, and you were fit as a brass monkey by the time you finished it. But at the end of it, they were calling names out, and I put my hand out. I said, "Listen, my ankle, my pin," and they knew, and it's funny because they started giggling. They knew because they knew that I wanted to go to Arbroath to go to Northern Ireland. And they said, "Oh, okay, Hawks, okay, go back to the block." And so I had to then wait 3 weeks before the next course, and then just started from scratch again, and then just went through up to Limston. And as it happened, I actually found the Royal Marines training quite easy, and I think it was because I was a bit older. The parachute regiment was flipping hard because as a young 17-year-old kid, your body's not fully matured. But I found P Company flipping really, really hard, really difficult. Scraped through it, got through it, and everything else. And but then when you're a bit older and it's that, but your body's a bit more mature. So when I did the all arms course at the age of 20, 17 and 20, your body's totally different. If that makes sense. Yeah. So I loved it. I loved the training. Did really well in it as it happened, and ended up getting my dream move up to Arbroath, and off we went. And there was three of us, just three of us, volunteered to go because everybody in 29 wants to be in the Sunshine Batteries down in Plymouth, because it's a fantastic. But three of us volunteered to go up to Scotland, to Arbroath, middle of nowhere, little fishing village up in Arbroath.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and the first trip we did was Northern Ireland, South Armagh.
And what year was that?
Yeah, so we went to, but based in Besbrook generally, but we had Newton Hamilton, Crosswood Lane, all that area. We just rotated around, but it was a great tour. It was 4.5 months. But South Armagh at the time, because you had 2 para were there because they'd obviously lost all their people at Warren Point. But you had 2 para, you had 4-1 commando, who it was their last tour, and that's who we were attached to. Because straight after that tour, 4-1 commando then went into suspended animation, and out of sight really. So it was a really good tour. We didn't have any major incident. It was a really nice quiet tour. But for me it was I wanted to join the military. I'm not a camp soldier. I do not like being sat in a camp. It just bores the pants off me, and I'll explain it all later on why that came about. But I just like being out the camp. So being in Northern Ireland was just fantastic. I loved it. Loved the tour, and I liked the people. That, you know, as it happened, the military had a bit of a negative attitude to Catholics in general over there, and where we were, Besbrook, was a very, very Catholic area.
Yeah.
So everybody was viewed with suspicion. You know, bear in mind that the IRA is only a small, tiny percentage, whereas the majority of people in Northern Ireland Catholics are fantastic, lovely people.
Yeah.
But as a young military guy, that it doesn't come across that way. You know, you're indoctrinated that everybody must be a bad person. And the poor old Catholics, you know, especially on a Sunday when they were going to church, they were getting a car stripped for no other reason other than being a Catholic, to be honest. And you know, and that at the time it didn't really resonate at the time, but it did later on when I started doing my undercover stuff over in Northern Ireland.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Because I had a few mates. I had one mate who served in Northern Ireland, and he was a Catholic as well. And I think that people are people. What we've all got in common is we're human beings, aren't we? And I know, and I believe there's only a few bad people in the world. It's just that they move around a lot.
Yeah, to be honest, I found Belfast one of the nicest, friendliest cities. And that was during the bad times. I did quite a lot of undercover stuff over there later on, and absolutely loved Belfast. Got to know it like the back of my hand.
Yeah.
Got to know it better than any other city I've known, purely because you had to.
Yeah.
But speaking to people, you know, in the hard, you know, the Anderson Town and the Turf Lodge area, New Lodge, and all that, you know, Ardoyne, friendly people. Thing is, at the time, I had really long hair. My nickname was Jesus or Custer. You know, when I went back to Hereford, I had this long hair. Tell Custer to get his hair cut. I think he's on the Op Sugar, which was the undercover stuff. So I didn't look military at all. And when I was speaking to the Irish population, I never ever tried to speak with an Irish accent because they suss you out immediately.
Yeah, of course they do.
But at the time, there's a lot of Brits over there. Plus, you had the university, Queen's University.
And what year was this?
So the Northern Ireland doing the undercover was 93, 94.
Right.
Sort of time. The initial Northern Ireland tour that I did was 1989.
Okay, so the 1989 sets you up for 93. So what happens between 1989, the first tour of Northern Ireland, and then what triggers the next move, if you like?
Yeah, so I was quite lucky, really. So in 29, we used to do Norway every year because that was our role, the Arctic role. So that got me into, you know, the skiing and you know, the Arctic role in general. And it, you know, we were doing that for 3 months. So you'd go out there on really early January or some.
JoeTeams.com is a resource I have created to fulfill my mission to help 1 million veterans and business entrepreneurs like you achieve the goals, dreams, and aspirations they deserve. JoeTeams.com is jam-packed full of valuable resources specifically designed to help you on your journey to success. Visit JoeTeams.com now to find out how you can join and start your journey to success immediately. That's JoeTeams.com, JoeTeams, JoeTeams.com. And until we meet again, have a brilliant day.